It's those horny cats. That's going to get you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Teres Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, and we welcome in Eddie Chazan, Mo Kushner, Irving Fishbaum, Nachman Chapler, Marshall Castle, Barish Gesseman, Mark Frankel, Saba, Yitzi Muller, Shelley Zeitlin, Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Lehman, Richard Rosenzweig, Elia Schutman, Abe Arbach, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Moshe Jacknin, David Helfgott, An Kalaloshin. We begin a very famous Gemara, a Gemara that's traditionally learned all over the world on Tisha B'Av, as we welcome in Dr. Black, and we learn with the Tefillah, sponsored by A.B. Spry, with the Tefillah, that all children should get into yeshiva with ease, without heartache to the parents. We also want to learn Le'ilui Nishmas Chana Bas Yehuda, Chosheva Balabas of mine from the Agud Yisrael of Staten Island, Oren Finkel's wife's mother. Neshama should have an aliyah. She should be Miyah Melitz Yosher for her family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. And as we welcome in Chaim Kramer joining us. So we are holding at the two dots, 8 lines from the bottom of Daf Nun Hamad Bey, starting this remarkable Daf Yomi. Amar Reb Yochanan, Ma'idich Siv, what is that which is written? As we welcome in 3 more people here, Yisrael Fisher from Tannersville, Baruch Ian, and Ruvain Pollack, just joining us. They just came in under the wire as we stalled for these Choshev gentlemen. Again, Amar Reb Yochanan, Ma'idich Siv Ashrei Adam Mefachei Tamid. Fortunate is a person who is always fearful, while Umak Shalibai, one hardens his heart and doesn't concern himself about what might transpire, Yipol Bara, will fall into evil. Now, of course, this begs the question, Daiga, worry is considered something very bad. It says it breaks half the constitution of man. And yet over here it says, fortunate is the person who is always fearful. How do we reconcile the two? And what I like to explain, it's good to see Itchy here with us. It's about time. Stephen Holtzman is here. Richard Rosenzweig has joined us. Let's get people on over here. And Gedalia Engel did make it. Okay, Gedalia, you see you made it. So anyway, so how do we reconcile the fact that it says it's fortunate is a person who's always fearful with the fact that it says that Daiga, it breaks half the constitution of man? So I like to always explain it by saying that there's 2 types of worry. There's constructive worry and destructive worry. Constructive worry is a good thing. So therefore a person will wear a car seat because he's worried about getting into an accident. A person won't talk while he's eating because he's worried about choking. A person will not drive after he's had some wine because he's worried about getting into an accident. Right? So that's all constructive worry. Destructive worry is a person who, because he's afraid that there are accidents, he won't get into a car. That's destructive worry. So worry that leads to doing something better, like a person is worried about safety, and therefore they make sure their mezuzah is kosher. So that's something that's positive. So that's constructive worry. Worry that leads to a person not functioning, That's no good. I remember that once my mother became pregnant with her mezinikel in her almost mid-40s. And in those days, it was much less common than it is now. And the doctor scared the daylights out of her, that her body might not be able to handle it, the child might not be healthy. And I remember I spoke about it to Rav Moshe, and Rav Moshe said to me, "Was helft the daiga?" What does the worry help? In other words, if the worry doesn't help, then that's destructive worry. I've also said a pshat that daga has all the letters of the beginning of the aleph base. It has aleph, gimel, dalet, hey, except for the base. Right? Daga is 4 of the 5 first letters of the aleph base. It's just missing the base. Because if you're missing the base of bitachon, then you're going to have daga. That's, as we welcome in Michal, 29 Zoomers so far, Baruch Hashem. As more I hope to come. I don't see Shalom Fogel here yet tonight. I sent invitations to a lot of people. Chaim Lerner is here? No, Chaim Lerner is not here either, I don't think. I sent a bunch of invitations out to people hoping that they'll rejoin us for this special Gemaras. So if you're missing the Beis of B'tachon, then you have Daigas. So the Gemara says, a Kamtza bar Kamtza, because of a mistake where they invited an enemy called Bar Kamtza instead of a friend called Kamtza, Chorv Yerushalayim. The destruction of Yerushalayim came about. A Tarnagol of a Tarnagolta, because of a rooster and a hen, Chorv Tur Malka, the great royal mountain, was destroyed. Asaka the Rispak, because of a side of a chariot, Chorov Beitar, the great metropolis of Beitar, was destroyed. Now we're going to explain each of these cases. We start off with the most famous case of a Kamtza or Bar Kamtza, because of the incident of Kamtza Bar Kamtza, because of the mistake, Chorov Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim was destroyed. There was a man, Derachmei Kamtza, who had a friend Kamtza, or Bal Debave Bar Kamtza, and an enemy Bar Kamtza. Ovid Sudas, he made a banquet, many learn a wedding feast. Amalei L'Shamei, he told his attendant, Zil Aisi Li Kamtza, invite my friend Kamtza. The attendant botched it up, Ozal Aisi Le Bar Kamtza, and he invited the enemy Bar Kamtza. Asa Ashkechei Davi Yosef, so the host came and saw his enemy sitting there. Amalei, he says, I can't believe this. Michte, Hau Gavra Bal Debava Dahu Gavra, you're my enemy. My boy Yisacha, what are you doing here? You're spoiling my evening. Kum Pak, get up and leave. Amalei, so he said, Hoyel Vasoi, since I came and I was invited, Shafkan, don't embarrass me, leave me. It's $100 a portion. I'll pay the $100. Amalei like, he said, no. Amalei, he says, look, the whole town is here. I'll pay for half the chasen. Amalei like, he says, no. Amalei, so he was already begging, I'll pay for the whole chasana, just don't embarrass me. Amalei, he said, look, I don't want you here. You're spoiling the evening. Nokte biyade, he took them by the hand, he picked them up, and he threw them out. Amar. So Bar Kamsa said to himself, on the dais were all the rabbis, all the rabbis. Since the rabbis were sitting there and didn't protest, that they are okay with such poor behavior. So they're all a bunch of charlatans. I'll go and slander them to the Tsar. Now here the Maharsha famously says that the rabbis weren't to be faulted because they felt that they had no sway on this host, and it wouldn't help. So Azul Amalei Lekesar. So he went and he told the Tsar, Mordubach Yudai, the Jews are rebelling against you. So the Tsar, he says, prove it. Amalei, he said, Mi Yemar. Who says? Amalei, well, he says, I'll prove it to you. Shadalu Kurbana, send from the royal house a carbon. Chazis imekarven, see if they will bring it. Azul Shadar biyadei, so the king sent an igla tilsa. Igla tilsa was the filet mignon of the time of the Talmud. Either it's a calf a third grown or a calf a third to its mother. Bahadi de Kasi, as he was taking it, Shada Beimuma, he put a blemish in it. Either Beniv Svasayim in the upper lip, V'imr la b'doikin sheba'ayin, he made a cataract. Duchta didana v'muma, a place that for us is a mum, v'lididu lav mumuhu, and for them it's not a mum. Everybody asked, how could you make a cataract? So they have it's in the Chuvas Rashba. One shot is that he knew how to cause a cataract in the eye of an animal, or he switched it with an animal that had a cataract. So Savar Rabbanan Likrove, so Rabbanan thought to offer it Mishum Shalom Malchus, in order not to cause a fight with the king. Amalu Reb Zechariah ben Avkulas, Reb Zechariah ben Avkulas said, how can we do that? They'll say that we bring blemished animals on the altar. So Saval Miktale, then they reasoned to kill Bar Kamtza as a roidif, the loy lezel v'lema, that he shouldn't go and slander us to the king. Amalu Reb Zechariah says, we can't kill him because he made a mum. The people will say that if you put a blemish in kachim, you're killed. Amar Reb Yochanan an v'senusai shel Reb Zechariah ben Avkulas. Now, the pashtus of an v'senusa means the humility of Reb Zechariah ben Avkulas, that he couldn't take it upon himself to kill Bar Kamsa. Hechriva esbeisenu, caused the Harabayas to be destroyed, v'sorfa es hechalenu, and the Kodesh and Kodesh Kedoshim to be burnt, v'glisanu me'artzenu, and caused us to be exiled from our land. Others say an v'senusai over here means tolerance. It's interesting that my brother Yisrael Weiss, who has been like a toyin in cases in court, he says that sometimes there are strong people that come to court, and the dayanim, they can do things according to the strict letter of the law. Can we rule just because of this? Can we rule just because of that? But it could cause that strong, wise guys can take advantage of the court system. So, Shadar Alvayu, so the emperor sent against them Leneiroin Kesar. Neiroin, who was like a deputy czar. Now, Neiron wanted to use a type of divination to see if he would succeed at the campaign. So Kika Asi, when he went towards Yerushalayim, Shada Gira Lemizrach, he shot an arrow to the east, Asa Nafal Yerushalayim. It fell in Yerushalayim. Lamariv, he shot to the west, and miraculously Asa Nafal Yerushalayim. La'arba Ruchas, to the other four directions, in other words, to the south and to the north, and each case, Asa Nafal Yerushalayim. So that was a sign that Yerushalayim would fall in his hands. But another way of having a mini prophecy is to meet a child and ask the child what pasuk he learned that day. So Amalei Liyanuka, he told the child, Psaikli Psukech, Tell me your pasuk. Amalei v'nasati es nikmasi be'edaim. I will wreak my vengeance against Edom. B'yad Ami Yisrael, through Yisrael, by them attacking Yisrael, I will then avenge myself on Edom. So Amar Neiron said, with such a clarity, Kutsha barichu boy l'chruvei beisi. Hashem wants to destroy his house. And then he wants to wipe his hands and blame me. Orak, he fled, v'ozl v'igayer, and he converted. It's an amazing thing. He saw with a clarity, and it caused him to convert. V'nafik minei Rameir, and from him the great Rameir descended, who would be Meir Eini Yisrael b'Toirasai. It's an amazing thing that this epiphany that Neiron had led to the creation of Rameir. So now the emperor sent Shadrei Elvayu Laspasianis case. He sent Vespasian against him. And also Tsar Alot Lashnei. And he set siege to Yerushalayim for 3 years. Havabu Anot Tlasa Asire. There were 3 very wealthy men in Yerushalayim. Nakdimun ben Gurion, or ben Kalba Savua, or ben Tzitzis HaKeses. These are unusual names. I already made a bracha. Nakdimun ben Gurion, Shenokta Loichama Bavurai. The Nakdim Ben Gurion was called Shenoktaloi, for the sun came out special because of him. He once took a loan and promised, he took a loan of water in a time of drought, and he promised to pay a tremendous amount if it didn't rain by a certain time. And it didn't rain. And then he prayed on the last day, but the man said it was after night. So the sun came out again, miraculously, to show that it was still day. Ben Kalba Savua, Shekola Nichmas Lebeisai Kishurav Kikelev, if somebody came into his house, even if he was hungry like a dog, it says a dog is very poor. That's why its digestive system goes for 3 days. So even if he's hungry like a dog, Yoitze Kishu Saba, he went out full. Ben Tzitzis HaKeses, Shahoisa Tzitzisai Nigreris Al Gabe Ksasais. He was so wealthy that whenever he walked, they rolled out carpet in front of him, so he should walk on carpet. So his tzitzis was always dragging on carpet, and then afterwards he left the carpet for the poor people. Igan Amrei, others say, his chair was amongst the powerful people of the Roman Senate. He was a very very, very wealthy person. Chadam Alahu once said, Ano Zainalu b'chite v'sare. I'll support them with wheat and barley. V'chadam Alahu, and one said to them, b'dechamra u'b'nemilcha. I'll support the Jewish people with wine and salt, u'mishcha, and oil. V'chadam Alahu, and one said, b'detzive, that I'll support them with timber, with wood. V'shibchu Rabbanan l'detzive, and the Rabbanan praised the one that gave the wood more. The Rav Chisda kol haklidei havemasa l'shamei, he gave all the keys to his attendant, bar medetzive, except for the key to the woodshed. The Amar Rav Chisda achlaba dechite, one silo of wheat, boin shitin achlabe detzive, needs 60 storage sheds of wood. That's how much wood you need to make one silo of wheat. Now, they had enough to support Klal Yisrael under siege for 21 years. Havalul amazing Esrim v'chad shata. They had enough to support Klal Yisrael under siege for 21 years. But there were the Havabu Ano Biryainei. There were the youth who didn't have patience. Right? That's what it says. Binyan Yoladim Stira. The building of the youth is a demolishing. So there were these wild men. Amru Lahu Rabbanan. The Rabbanan said to them, Nepik v'navit shalma badayu. Let's figure out a way to make a truce with them. However, Lo Shafkinu. The Biryanim didn't allow it. You know, they felt that they could overtake the Romans. Amrulu, so they said, Nepik v'navid kirva b'adayu. Let's fight. Jewish might. Amrulu Rabbanan, the Rabbanan said, Lo mistaya milsa. You're not going to succeed. So the Biryanim didn't have patience. So kamu kalnu lano ambre dechite v'sar. Could you imagine? They burnt the silos of wheat and barley. V'hava kafna. And since there was a siege and no food was coming in, it resulted in a terrible famine. Marta bas Baitis, Marta the daughter of Baitis, asirta the Yerushalayim havi. She was the wealthiest of Yerushalayim. Shadras al-shlucha, she sent her butler, v'amrulei, and she said to him, Zil aisili smida, go bring me fine flour. Ada Ozel, by the time he arrived at the market, is daven, all fine flour was sold. Also, he came back, Amala smida leka, there's no fine flour, chivar ika, there is white flour. So Amrulei, she said to him, Zil aisili, so bring me the white flour. Ada Ozel, in the meantime, is daven. The white flour was sold. Also, ba'amalach chivarta leka, there's no white flour, but gushkara ika, there is coarse flour. Amalei zil aisili, the ozel is daven. By the time he got there, it was sold. Also, ba'amalach gushkara leka, but kimcha desari ika, there is barley flour, which was animal food. Amrulei, she said to him, Zil aisili, bring it to me. The ozel is daven. By the time he got there, it was sold. Have a shlifa misana, she was barefoot. Amr, she said, look, you want to do a job, you got to do it yourself. Epik ve'irse, let me go out and see, to find something to eat. Esav la parsa bekar, she ventured out with her bare feet, and a piece of dung stuck to her foot. She was so delicate, the dung touching her foot got her so sick, umesa, she died. Kari alei Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai lamented, Harakabach, the delicate amongst you, the soft amongst you, Va'anuga, and the delicate, Ashali nisisa kaf ragla, that the sole of their feet never touched the ground. Ikidamre, others say what caused her to get sick is Groigeris Rab Tzadik Ochla. Rab Tzadik used to fast for 40 years that the Beis Mikdash shouldn't be destroyed. When he revived himself, he took a fig, he sucked it out, and threw away the fig. And she ate the fig that he threw away. Visnisa, she got sick, umesa, and she died. What was the story of Rab Tzadik? The Rab Tzadik Yosef Arbin Shnin Betanisa, he fasted 40 years, the loy lichri of Yerushalayim, that Yerushalayim shouldn't be destroyed. Ki avi ochel midei, when he ate after the fast, having mischazi mavra, he was so skinny that you could see the food going down from the outside. V'chi avi bari, when he wanted to revive himself, ma'isila groigris, he couldn't eat too much, his stomach couldn't handle it, they brought him a fig, mayitz mayayu, he sucked out the juice, v'shadilu, and he threw it away. Ki avi konech nafsha, when she was dying, I picked the kol da'ava v'kaspa, she took out all her gold and silver, Shodise Beshuka, threw it in the marketplace. Amra hai lamai mi boili. What is this worth for me? What is it healthy? V'hainu d'chsiv kaspan b'chutzas yashlichu. they threw their silver out into the market. It reminds me that the head of Santander Bank, I think in Italy, got COVID at the beginning of COVID, and he died in the hospital without any of his family able to visit him because they didn't allow it. And his family wrote that he had $8 billion. He died wanting ear, which is free, alone without his family around him. What did his $8 billion help him? It's like the billionaire that died in the sub, in the Titan. What did the billions help? Abba Sikra, Reish Biryoinei Yerushalayim, he was the head of the Biryoinim. He was the head of the how do you pronounce it? Ruffians?
Yeah, ruffians.
Ruffians. So he was the head of the ruffians. He happened to be Bar Achseid Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. He happened to be a nephew, the son of the sister of Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Havashalach le Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent him Tobet Sina legabai. Smuggle yourself into me. So also he came. Amalei ad emes avdi suhachi. How long are you going to behave this way, stopping us from making peace? V'kotlisa leila alma bekafna. You're going to kill everybody in famine. Amalei. So he said to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, "My aved, what could I do? If I tell them something, kadluli, they're going to kill me." He was a leader without any power. Amalei chazali takanta ledidi. He said, "At least find me a way, the apuk, that to smuggle me out of the city. Efshadavi atzala person. Maybe I could save something." Amalei. So Abba Sikra told him, "Nikait nafshech b'ktzirei. Feign sickness. V'leisei kuli alma v'lishaylubach. Let everybody come to be mavaka chayla. Then v'aisei midei sarya, bring some spoiled meat, v'agnei gabach, and put it near your bed, that it should be, they'll say you died and you're beginning to decompose. V'leimru denach nafshech, and people will say that you passed away. V'la'ilubach talmidach, when carrying your coffin, only let your disciples carry the coffin. V'loy le'ilbach ineshachrina. But don't let anybody else carry you. That they won't sense that you're light. The inu yadei, people know the chaye kala memese, that the living are lighter than the dead. That's why it's called the dead weight. So Ovid Hachi, he feigned death. Nichnasa bar Rebbe Eliezer mitzad echad, Rabbi Yeshua mitzad acher. Rebbe Eliezer stood on one end. Rabbi Yeshua carried him on the other hand. Kimatu lepischa, when they came to the customs, bo lemitkere, the Biryonim wanted to put a spear through him to make sure he's dead. Amalahu, so they said to him in horror, Ya amru rabbanan daka, you want people to say that they stabbed their rabbi? Bo lemitkere, they wanted to push him. Amalahu, ya amru rabbanan daka, you want people to say they pushed their rabbi? So Pascal above, they opened up the gate to the cemetery, nothing. Kimata lahasim, when he arrived to Vespasian, Amar Shalma alach malka, Shalma alach malka, peace to you, king, peace to you, king. Amalei, so he said, Mechayvis trei katala. You deserve to be executed for two reasons. Chada de la malkana, I'm not a king, the kakarsli malka. So you were murdered against the emperor. Visu, and furthermore, Malkana, if I am the emperor, until now, why didn't you come? Amalei, so he told him, the Kamrit Lab Malkana, that which you say that I'm not a king, he said, you're mistaken. Ivra Malkat, you're going to become king. Dila Malkat, if you're not king, Loimimsur Yerushalayim biyotcha. Yerushalayim will not be given to you. D'chsiv ha'lavanan, Levanon is the Beis HaMikdash, ba'adir yipo, will fall to royalty. Ve'ein adir el melech, it's king. The king will be from him. Ve'ein levana el beis hamikdash shenemar ha'or ha'toiva hazeh, this goodly mountain va'levana. Udika amrit, and at which you say imalkana, if you're king, amay lo ka'asis l'gaboy hado idna, why didn't you come until now? Beryaina the ispan, the beryainim that are amongst us lo shafkina, didn't allow us. Amalei, so he said, ilu chav yishel dvash, if there's a jug of honey, v'darkin karachalei, and a snake is wrapped around it, lo yavi shavyin es achavyus, don't you break the flask in order to get rid of the snake, b'shvil darkin, so you should have destroyed the walls to get rid of the biryainim. Ishtik, he was quiet. He didn't have an answer for that. Kari alei Rabbi Yosef, he said Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yosef and others say Rabbi Akiva said this is an example of Meishiv Chachamim Achar. Hashem turns the wise backward, v'daitam yisachal, and makes their minds temporarily foolish. He should have said shaklinon safsa, we take a tongue, v'shaklinon le'ledarkan, and pick up the snake, v'katlinon le, and kill it, v'chavita shafkinala, and we leave the jug of honey. And here too, we were waiting for a time to get rid of the beryain. Anyway, adahachi, in the meantime, Asi Pristika Alei Miroimi, a special brigade came from Rome, Amalek, and said to him, "Come, get up, the Meislei Kaser, the Tsar has died, the Imre Hanoch Hashive Deraime, and the Senate decided Loisivech Beresha, to make you the emperor." At that moment, Havisayim Chad Masane, he had one shoe on and one shoe off. Bol Misame Lachrina, he wanted to put on the second shoe. Loy Ayel, it didn't go on. Boil Mishal Falaidach, he wanted to take off the first shoe. Loy Nafik, it didn't come off. Amamai Hai, turned to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai and he says, "What's going on?" Amalei Leit Star, don't be troubled. Shmua Toiva asks you, look, you got good news, and that made your limb expand. Dichsiv Shmua Toiva Tidashin Etzem. Good news causes the bone to swell. Elamaita Kante, what's the Eitzah? Leise Inish Deloy Meisri Daitach Mine, let somebody who you don't like pass by you. Velich Lech Kamach, Dichsiv Ruach Necheya, a troubled spirit to Yavesh Garm, causes the bone to dry up. Ovid Hachi, he did that, and Ayel, the shoe went on. Amalei, so he said to him, Omeacha dechakmise kula hai, since you're so wise, Ada idna mailo yasisa legabai, until now, why didn't you come to me? If you're so wise, then until now, why didn't you come to me? Amalei, so he said to him, V'loi imreilach, did I not tell you? Because of the beryainim? Amalei, well, I also told you that you should have destroyed the walls. Amalei, so then Vespasian told him, Mezel Azilna, I'm going to leave. I'm going to send somebody in my place. Ask for a boon that I'll give you. Amalei, so he asked him for three things. Tain li Yavna v'chachameha, spare the yeshiva of Yavna and its sages, which is the heart of Klal Yisrael, future of Klal Yisrael. V'sheshilta de Rabban Gamliel, and the dynasty of Rabban Gamliel. V'asvos, and a doctor, Damascus Leila Rabbi Tzadok, that will heal Rabbi Tzadok. So Kari Alei Rabbi Yosef said about Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, he said to Rabbi Akiva, Meishiv Chachamim Acher, he turns the sages backward, V'daitam Yisachal, making their minds foolish. He should have told him, Lishvekinu Chadazimna, let them go this time. But Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai felt that it would be too much, and then he would lose everything. He won't do that, and then he'll be left with nothing. So the doctor to heal Rabbi Tzadok, you have to understand that on a national level, having a healthy Rabbi Tzadok is important for Gans Klal Yisrael. So that's an idea that that when we had the Sarah Torah of Chaim, when we had Rav Moshe, when we had the Chazon Ish, it protected the whole Jewish world. Having Reb Tzaddik was a national need. So how did they cure him? Asvasa Damasian later Reb Tzaddik Mahi, Yuma Kama Ashkiua Maya Depore. In order to widen his stomach slowly, they soaked bran in water and had him drink that water. Lamacher Maya de Sipuka. The next day, they gave him to drink water that was mixed with bran and regular flour. Lamacher Maya de Kimcha. And then the next day, flour was soaked in. And slowly but surely, Adiravach Me'er Pursa, until his stomach widened little by little. And now the monster was sent. Ozil Shadre Letitus. So Vespasian sent Titus. V'amar, and in his arrogance he said, Ey Elohim, where is their God? Sur Chasayubai, the rock that they have their faith in. Zet Titif Arasha. This is Titif Arasha, the wicked. Shechira V'gidev Klape Mala. He cursed and blasphemed God. Ma Asa, what horror did he do? Tafis Zayna Biyada, he grabbed hold of a harlot. V'nichnas l'beis kache HaKadoshim, he went into the Holy of Holies. V'tzia Sefer Torah, and laid out a Sefer Torah on the floor in the Holy of Holies. V'avar aleha aveira, and he did an aveira with her. V'notel sayif, he took a sword. V'gidar es ha'pareiches, and he swiped at the curtain that separated between the Kodesh and Kedoshim. V'nasa neis, and a miracle happened. V'yadam mevatzveis v'yotzei, and blood came out of it. U'kisaver harages atzma, he thought he killed God. Shenemar shagu tzarerecha b'kerev mayadecha, your enemies roared in the midst of your temple. Samu oisoisam oisois, they made their sign as if it was real signs. Abba Chananaimer, in reference to how Hashem tolerated this man's blasphemy, Micha Moicha Chasin Ka, who is like you, O strong God? Micha Moicha Chasin V'Kadosh, who is tough? Sha'ata Shemea Niutza, you hear people bad-mouthing you. V'Gidufa Shalaisa Rasha, and the blasphemy of this wicked person, V'Shaisik, and you're silent. The Bei Rabbi Aimer, the Bei Rabbi Shmuel Tana, in the Academy of Rabbi Shmuel was taught, Micha Moicha Be'elam Hashem. Literally, this means, who is amongst you, who is like you amongst the mighty? Micha Moicha Be'ilmim, who is amongst you mute, that he does this and Hashem is silent. Me'asa, what did Titus do? Not the less hapareiches, he took the curtain, V'asu kamin gargusni, he fashioned a basket, V'hevi kol kelim shit b'mikdash, and he took all of the vessels of the mikdash, V'nichan b'hem, and put it in the basket of the pareiches, V'yishimon b'svina, and he took it in a boat, Leilach lishtabeach be'irai, to go to boast in Rome. Shenemar u'bechein re'isi rishon kvurim, I saw the wicked who deserved to be buried, ubo, they were coming, u'mamakam kadosh yalechu, and they came from your holy city, v'yishtakhu be'ir, and it will be forgotten in the city, asher kain also, which they did. Now the word kvurim and yishtakhu, the Gemara now changes. Al tikre kvurim ela kivutzim, that he gathered the kalim. Al tikre v'yishtakhu ela v'yishtapchu, to boast in the city. Iked amre kvurim mamish, actually means buried. That even things that were hidden were revealed to Titus. Da'afilu midei demitman, even things that were hidden, egal yelahan, were revealed to Titus. So now he's traveling in the boat. Amar alav nachshel shabiyam, a huge wave rose over him l'toivai, to drown him. So you got to hear the blasphemy of this man. Amar Kimedumani, it seems to me, Shalakayim Shal Elu Ein Gvurasa Yela B'mayim, that their God only has power in the water. Ba Paro Tova B'yam, he drowned him in the Yamsuf. Ba Sisroi Tova B'mayim, he drowned him in Nachal Kishay. Afu Aymed Alayla Toveni B'mayim, now he's trying to drown me in the water. Im Giberhu, if he's really mighty, Yalali Abash, let him come to the dry land, V'yasa Imi Milchama, and do battle with me on the dry land. Yatsa Baskal V'Amrulai, a divine echo came out and said to him, Rasha ben Rasha, wicked person, the son of a wicked person, Ben Benoishal Esav Rasha, the descendant of the wicked Esav. Bury a kalva yeshli bailami. I have a very light, insignificant creature, V'yitushma. It's a gnat. And I might call it a bury a kalva. Why is it called light? The malona isla, it has a mouth of my pikmin lesla, but it doesn't have a rectum. It lives so short that it doesn't need to excrete anything. Olali Abasha, go to the dry land, Vitasa Ima Milkama, and do battle with it. Forget about doing battle with me. Do battle with the gnat. Olali Abasha. So Titus came to the dry land. Bo Yitish, a gnat came, V'nichnas b'chaytmai, and entered his nose. V'nokar b'moichai sheva shanim, and pecked painfully at his brain 7 years. Yumachad, one day, he passed the blacksmith. Shama Kerl Arzafta, the gnat heard the banging of the hammer of the blacksmith, Ishtuk, and that silenced it. Amar Ikatakanta, so Titus said, oh, there's a way out, there's relief. Kol Yuma Maisi Nafka, every day he would bring a blacksmith, Umacha Kameh. L'nochri Yov le'arbazuze, to a Gentile he gave 4 zuz, L'Yisrael, to a Jewish blacksmith, Amalei mistayich dekachazis b'sanach. It's enough that you see the suffering of your enemy. Ad tlosin yoimin avid hachi. It helped for 30 days. Mekan ve'elach, afterwards, came in the dush, since the gnat got used to it, it stopping it from drilling at Titus. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Pinchas ben Arayva. Pinchas ben Arayva said, Ani hayisi ben Gedoylei Raimi, I was amongst the 7th. Ukishemeis, when Titus died, Potsu es Maichai, they split open his head. Umatzabay kitziper drar, and they found a gnat the size of a swallow, Mishkal Shnei Slam, the weight of 2 selah. But Mesnisa Tana Kigoizel ben Shana, it was like a pigeon a year old. Mishkal Shnei Litrin, the weight of 2 liter. Amar Abaye Nakatinon, we have a tradition. Piv Shel Nechoshes, its mouth was of copper, its beak was of copper. Vitzipornav Shel Barzel, and its claws were of iron. Ki Abikamayis, when he was dying, Amalahu, he said to them, Likluya lahu gavra, burn me, v'livdere lekitme ashev yame, and sped my ash to the 7 seas, the loy lishkache Elohad Yudai, that the God of the Jews won't be able to find me, v'lukmei bedina, and bring me to judgment. Unkelis bar Clunicus, Unkelis, the son of Clunicus, bar Achse de Titusava. He was a nephew of Titus. Boili Gurye, he wanted to convert. So Ozel Aske Titus Benegida, he through necromancy, he brought Titus back from the dead. Amalei, he asked him, Man Choshev Ba'u Alma, who is important in the next world? Amalei Yisrael, it's the Jews. Maulid Bukebu, should I join them? Amalei Milayu Nefishim, they have a lot of laws. V'lei Matzis L'kiyuminu, you won't be able to fulfill them. Zil Igrebu Ba'u Alma, go start up with them in this world. V'havis Reisha, and then you'll become a head. The adversaries became a head. Kol HaMeitzi Yisrael, whoever starts up with the Jews, Nasiraish. So then Onkelos asked him, how are you being punished? Amalei Dine Dau Gavra B'mai, how are you being punished? Amalei B'mai Deposik Anafshe, with what I pronounced upon myself. Kol yuma michna shelei lekitmei. Every day they gather my ashes from the seven seas. V'dainalei, they judge me. V'kalalei, they burn me again. Umivdur hashev yameh, and they scatter me onto the seven seas. Now, before we conclude this Gemara, as we are especially in the 3 weeks, we must know that the second temple was destroyed because of the sin of sinas chinam. The amount that this man hated Bar Kamtza was an example of sinas chinam. That here's a man that's, first of all, you invited him. It was a mistake. He offered to pay for the entire wedding, and still you picked him up and threw him out. That's an example of sinas chinam. And unfortunately, we know that kol dor sheloi nivna beis hamikdash biyamav ki'ilu charav biyamav. Any generation that the Beis Hamikdash was not built in its day, it's as if it's destroyed anew. Unfortunately, sinas chinam is thriving in our society. People just don't know how to get along with people who are not exactly like them. Besides the problems that are in families, in inner family struggles, problems that are in politics, that are in shuls. This is a time where we have to think more and embrace peace. It's not easy to embrace peace. It means to be tolerant. It means to look away. But this is something that we have to learn from this Gemara. We also have to learn that you cannot be silent when you see things wrong. We know that Bar Kamtza was upset because of the silent majority. Unfortunately, the silent majority is often guilty. They see something that's done against a rabbi, they're silent. They see something that's done against a poor family, they're silent. The silent majority is a very big problem. We know that if we're not moicha, if we don't protest, we're nitfas ba'oisei oven. We're held accountable for that sin. We have to be very careful with that. You know, we're living in America where it's none of my business. I got my own problems. Jews are not allowed to act that way. We have to know that we're responsible for what goes on in our home. You hear your wife talking on the phone, lashon hara, with her friend, you can't say, listen, she's a big girl. Of course, you can't just be a mashgiach. Nobody likes to live with a mashgiach. But if you see your wife talking lashon hara a lot, you love her, you don't want her to suffer, lashon hara lamadei, go to Ganem the easy way. A good eitzah is to make a seder with her in Hilchas Lashon Hara. You could even tell her that you need to brush up on it, and let's do it together. When you learn Hilchas Lashon Hara, you become much more sensitized to Lashon Hara. I know I made a seder with my wife, not because she spoke Lashon Hara, but we made a seder together, and then we became more sensitive. And even when we're speaking about the kids, we say, do we really need to speak about this? You know, after all, what happened with Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam was speaking about family. You have to be very careful when speaking about family. Tomorrow, Yitz Hashem, we have another daf of Agadita, and then we're going to have a Chumash here tomorrow. We are still looking for a sponsor for tomorrow night's Chumash here, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Now we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis.